What's up, everybody? This is Carlos from Artists and Social Club. Welcome back to ASC Online. Thank you for joining us. Today, we have a very special guest. Very humble to have him here. Not only is he a character artist and creature designer for TV and film, but he's also an instructor at Nomen Visual Effects School and a mentor here at ASC. We're really grateful to have him. His portfolio consists of Dungeons and Dragons, Guardians of the Galaxy, Transformers, Ninja Turtles, Ready Player One, Stranger Things. The list goes on, and most recently, Godzilla, King Kong, The New Empire. Go see it in theaters. Help me welcome Jared Krichevsky. Welcome, Jared. I appreciate you being here with me, man. Thank you for joining me in ASC Online.
Hell yeah, man. Great to be here.
Well, good, man. So listen, we got a lot to talk about, and I'm really excited to have you here. So really what I wanted to do with you today is just really talk a little bit about the process of the industry, get a little bit of insight as your, how you get prepared for, your projects and, working with directors and certain movies that you worked on. And so, but first and foremost, man, I'd love to know how you got into the industry. How'd you get started?
Yeah. Well, I went to college first. I got a degree in theater and fine art and minors in film study and things like that. So my career trajectory was, I guess, much different than I had envisioned. And so after college, I kind of like puttered around and like tried to figure out what I was doing with my life, as one does in their mid to late 20s. And I ended up working at a bookstore called Borders, and worked there for quite a while. And I just kept absorbing all the books and all the media and all that stuff kind of around me and things like that. And I kept coming across these 3D Art Masters books. And I was like, man, this is so cool. This is what people are doing with 3D now. And I just remember I kept like coming back to them. And so I asked my cousin who was working in video games. I'm like, hey, do you know anyone who teaches this stuff? Where do you learn this? He put together a list of schools for me. Nomen was at the top of that list. Nice. So I put together my portfolio and then applied, and they accepted me despite not knowing like anything about 3D.
Interesting.
And so, I got in, and it was very rigorous curriculum. And about midway through the program, I took a class with Jared Morantz.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Great teacher. He's a great teacher.
He's also a fantastic teacher, fantastic artist. And, he put his work up on the screen, and I was like, oh my God, this is like light bulbs, it was sparklers in the sky and all that stuff. And I was
hooked.
It's like, this is it, man. That's what I got to do. And, by happenstance, his studio was looking for interns, and he had asked us if any of us were interested.
Wow.
My hand shot right up. I was like, me. Here
That's awesome.
Yes, please. And a week later, I was interning at a concept design studio.
Wow. That's amazing. That's super amazing. Yeah, I took a class with him when he was teaching at Concept Design Academy in Pasadena. And that was a great school. That was one of the ones that kind of started off right around the time that Nomen was starting to pop up and stuff. And there was a lot to consider once those schools started popping up, because it was very what's the word, very like specific. You know what I mean? It was either games, movies, that sort of genre,
like entertainment design.
Yeah. That to me, I think, was like what was drawing me out of the toy industry. So I was in the toy industry for a long time. So when I heard about Nomen, I started hearing about Concept Design Academy. I think I was like, I gotta do something in this industry too. So that's cool that that's cool. And from fine arts to a theater, like why theater? Like, was that you want to be an actor, or is that?
Yeah. I mean, I grew up going to auditions. My mother was an actress, and she would take me along on auditions that she would go on to, and they would be like, "Hey, is that kid, available?" And because they're always looking for kids.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting an agent very young and was
Oh, cool.
doing voiceover work
Oh,
and
nice.
commercial work and stuff like that. So that was my kind of like first exposure to industry,
Wow.
creative industry. And so theater was kind of like a natural kind of path for that. And so yeah, theater was always kind of entangled up with my life. And I had been drawing ever since, I was able to. But I took one more seriously than the other, and then that flipped,
That's cool.
Yeah.
Did you when you were going to Noman and you applied for the classes, did you have in mind, I know you read the 3D books when you were working at the bookstore, but did you already have like a kind of like an idea of what you wanted to take it? Did you want to be an illustrator? Like what part of your art, I guess, is influenced your direction at Noman? Like,
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't go in with any preconceived notions,
okay,
which in a way was really good. I was just like, I'm just going to learn everything I can or am able to,
yeah,
because it's it can be very
yeah,
complex, and
oh
so
yeah,
yeah, no expectations, but I always felt like the pull of entertainment design,
very cool.
and that felt like a natural creative avenue for me. So everyone thought I was going to be an animator because of the theater experience, but I ended up going into design.
When you got to Noman and you started kind of like playing around with options and broadening your horizon, I guess is what you would say.
Yeah.
What was your inspiration? Like, what were you drawing from? Were you going more into movies or were you into more games? Like, what wasn't your inspiration?
Yeah, back then they didn't have the tracks. So it was just the 2-year certificate. And so I'd always had a fascination with visual effects, practical effects, monsters, puppetry. So monsters was always kind of like the goal. Like I want to go make some monsters. I don't know how, but I'm gonna do it. And I guess I thought clearly that, like, okay, visual effects seems to be like it's not going away.
Yeah,
Movies are going to use more of it. So I just got to find out where I can learn the basics of this stuff.
sure, sure.
So I didn't have a plan with game or film, and it just kind of happened that way. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I think when I was doing that stuff with Artists Social Club and Noman, I think talking to Adam was a very like eye opener because he really showed
Yeah.
what Noman, the possibilities for Noman was going to be. You know what I mean? Like just
Yeah.
so much stuff that you guys offer there that was so like incredible for the students. And I think, again, it's just the amount of talent that comes out of that school is just incredible.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I think that's just a tribute to the teachers, because
of
they're very,
course.
very good. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
you're a contributor of that. You're also
I mean, I am a part of it, but yeah, like I think it's all collaborative. It's
yeah,
it's the combination of all these things together that
sure.
makes it work.
So
You
what
know.
made you want to be a teacher from especially being an alum from Noman, you know what I mean? What led
Yeah.
you back to teaching?
Um, Also, I felt a natural avenue with both my communications and theatrical ability. It seemed like kind of like a good way to also be connected and grounded
Nice.
to it and interact with students. And in a way, like they say, when you teach, you learn something
Yeah,
twice.
that's right. That's right.
And so it just reinforces that knowledge in my head. And I'm always thinking about like a better curriculum, like how could I have said this better? What's a more efficient way to communicate? And that has affected in like how I deal with students, how I deal with clients, how I deal just in kind of like communications,
Mhm.
the those parts of it. So it's definitely like honed my skills and
Yeah,
made
yeah.
me, much more efficient. So I get just as much out of it as I do like giving. And I'm I view it like a scientist, like I try things and see what the results are.
Do you feel that your students are they challenge you a lot, or do you feel like you already kind of had the standard and you're just sharing your knowledge? Do you feel like the students challenge you as well?
Um, yeah, I mean, when they come up with questions that I'm like, okay, how do I phrase this the
Mm,
right way? So yeah, like in that regard, there it's challenging, but I do have like I just guess I have enough like ammo in the
yeah,
bag to like, okay, like you're dealing with this, here's
yeah,
this, you're dealing with this, here's
that's cool.
this, you
That's
know?
really cool. Well, I mean that I guess that's where experience comes in, right? I mean that's where
Yeah,
being in the trenches and failing at times, and which
yeah.
brings me to the next question too, is like um failure in a student. I see a lot of students that when they talk to us too, especially when we mentor them, a lot of them seem to have a really sense of like you know um like they fail a lot and they just feel like they're not equipping
Yeah.
themselves to that particular level that I guess they see their mentors or their inspiration, or they see a lot of artists in the industry and they're like, man, I can't get to that level, and then they just get discouraged and stuff. So what would you say to students that are struggling like that are just kind of feeling like they're not meeting that standard?
Yeah, yeah. I think of the struggle um as a side effect of the creative process. So when you burn gasoline, right, you get carbon dioxide as an emission, right? So that's the struggle is the emission
Mm,
of the process. And the fuel is your passion and and your drive, right? So struggle is just born of the process.
yeah,
And the sooner you embrace struggle as a part of the process, the sooner you get over struggle as the process. It doesn't mean like it's not going to be there, but you know it's there. You know
sure,
it's like, okay, I'm going through the we call it the suck, right? Like
definitely,
you're gonna go through like hard parts of the process where it's painful.
yep,
And you just have to just push past that feeling,
that's right,
and not just push past it, but just like embrace the feeling, because you don't grow in your comfort zone, right?
right, that's absolutely
So
right.
so if you're not pushing yourself, you're not uncomfortable, you're not growing, and so you just embrace that feeling. The struggle is the process.
That's right. Now, when you work with directors and you're working in movies, do you feel that same sense of like struggle as well, even at your level? Do you get that insecurity sometimes?
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, 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 yeah. Because yeah, I mean, how can you not? If pressure's on you, or the it's the pressure that you place on yourself. Um, so yeah, it definitely I don't get everything right, certainly.
Mm,
But every experience is just like another learning opportunity.
sure.
So I'm like, okay, because I have the unique opportunity to see my work and then see what makes it on screen.
Mm.
And if it makes it on screen, one to one, I'm like, okay, I did good. All right, I did it. I did my job. But sometimes if what I do doesn't make it, then I'm like, okay, what did they go for?
Mm,
What was it that I missed in the sense of like what they were asking for? So I don't always get things right. And sometimes I fail kind of like right up front, and then get over it. So usually like the first pass or so is just a huge failure, and then it gets better after that as I'm able to like glean their feedback and kind of like make adjustments.
how often does a director get involved in your creative process? Like when you get started, let's say you get a brief,
Yeah.
how 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 often does the director step in and say, "Listen, you're going on the wrong path," or is it like do you just hand in your stack of concepts and then they're like they weed through them?
Yeah, it's more the second one. Rarely they're like in there with me. They want to know how you do everything. It's they either trust you,
Oh,
to
cool.
a degree. If they know your work, then they trust you to a degree to produce what you do. Um, so you have to kind of take a little bit of confidence from that.
That's cool.
Um, but I mean, I would love to be down and dirty with the director. Like that is that when you're in that process, and I've done that, and it's really cool. it's really cool because you're working with them. You're bouncing ideas back. It's really rewarding. And that collaboration is always exciting.
Yeah.
So, but most of the time, yeah, you just do your thing and then just submit it, and you're kind of like, well, okay, let's see, how did it go?
I was talking to the Kyoto brothers right before this interview. I was talking to
Yeah,
Kyoto brothers, and they were saying how much they enjoy working with directors that are creative, that actually are artists.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And they have a I guess a better time because they can talk to each other the same way. Like James Cameron, like you worked on the Avatar movie, and so I think that working with art, like he's an artist. I mean, he's
yeah,
definitely a visionary. So it's they were saying how awesome it is to work with directors that can draw, that can actually show you the
yeah.
visualization of their ideas. Do you find that to be true as well, or?
Well, I didn't work with Cameron, but
Oh, you did. Oh,
that would be pretty cool. I've heard he really enjoys the design process.
yeah, that's what they were telling
Um, yeah, yeah. When they can draw it, it's always a little bit easier because they tend to have a clear idea of what they want, or at least are open to that exploration.
me.
Um, so every director is different, every situation is different. Um, you just kind of go in fresh and you're like, okay, what are you looking for?
Have you worked with a director that you were like, man, this guy just gives me what I need? Like you just like, yes, like it gave you like a good direction, and you're just like, this is gonna work out really well.
Yeah, I mean that was Adam Wingard, on both the Godzilla movies, because like he communicates it in a great way, and then when he gives notes, he's like, I want this, and you're like, awesome, and I think I was able to kind of like tap into what he was looking for. So
That's cool.
I definitely he's got an infectious enthusiasm, so I
That's
definitely
awesome. That's
feel
what
that as
you need.
well. Yeah, and that helps. It really does.
That's really cool. Now,
Yeah.
how much did you have to prepare for like a movie like Godzilla and King Kong? Like, did you have to go in and really start getting into a deep dive, I'm sorry, in the like anatomy of these monsters or anything like that? How deep did you get into reference?
Not that deep actually.
Oh, okay.
Not that deep. I mean, I had some like basic references, both stuff that they had sent or I had collected, but um, I didn't do like a deep dive, in that way.
Okay.
Um, to me, it was more about discovering their character.
Okay.
That's kind of in a way I kind of view it as a casting process.
Nice.
Like I'm looking for the right shape, the right feel, who's what's gonna coax out a little personality,
That's cool.
in that situation. So, yeah, because the monsters are the characters,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
And so they have to be emotive, they have to look unique and have personality, and that all has to radiate through an image.
True. That's very true. Now, for like characters like Megan, for example, right? When you worked on Megan, like that's something that you have to kind of do ideations of, her look and some of her hairstyles and different things. Like for that, like sort of stuff, when students are prepping for like, portfolios for stuff like this, for ideations, what would be your best advice for something like that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just collect as much reference as you can, or in Megan's case, the director, Gerard, he had lots of Pinterest boards and lots of reference, and he had lots of ideas, and wanted me to try lots of different things, and different levels of like hair sheen and
Mm,
bobs, and long hair, short hair. So that was a very experimental process, right? And even though I didn't get like the final design through, you can see that, like, okay, he likes to iterate, he likes to go through it, but yeah, I can see kind of like echoes of what I did in there,
that's
you
very
know.
cool.
So in that case, it's like I didn't get it one to one,
Mm,
but knowing Gerard, he likes to play, he likes to try things, and I know James Wan produced and probably had a lot of ideas as well. So you always take it as like it's a collaborative kind of environment, and things are always changing, like almost to the last minute,
Wow,
you know.
that's wild.
So when you do get a design across, that's very close, you're like, wow, it's rare.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
How do you feel that like when you're working on Megan, like there's like that softness of her face, and then you also have the robotic face, you know what I mean, which is changing
Yeah.
styles almost, right? I mean, you're changing from hard surface to soft, organic to more of mechanical. Um, do you feel that students should be more, versatile in that area?
Yeah, I think versatility is definitely a skill set, and it's a powerful tool in your toolbox. So being able to adapt your style,
Mm,
being able to adapt to the client,
mm,
unless you have like something very unique um that you do, that only you do, and they're coming to you for that, you should be flexible, and you should learn how to draw in different styles. Like I do consider myself a bit of a chameleon,
mm.
um, and being able to look at a style and adapt it and say like, okay, sure, I can hit this, I can hit what you're looking for,
That's cool.
So it's sometimes it's shooting a moving target,
Yeah, yeah.
but it is definitely, I think, advantageous for sure.
Yeah, I think when I was going through your like, I've seen your work for a long time, and I think that, seeing your like ArtStation, for example, like your stuff is just, man, you got variety. Like, I mean, that's just and I think that a lot of students, when we go through the portfolio reviews with them, a lot of the times their portfolio seems to be very kind of one-sided or one-dimensional, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So there's not a whole lot of variety there.
Yeah.
um, you know, um, what would you advise a student that's looking for, to get into the entertainment industry as far as portfolio goes?
Yeah, I mean, definitely you're gonna get mixed advice on that from everybody. Everybody's got a different opinion about that,
And
I
you know
think.
what's funny is that's exactly why I asked this question, because I love to
Yeah,
hear everybody's thoughts on it. Because I've heard, I'll let you continue, but I just saying, a lot of the times, a lot of people say, "Oh yeah, do what you love and just
yeah.
do that," and
And
then
only do that.
yeah,
Yeah,
and it's just like, do you really want to do that? Because that might not be what anyone's looking for. It might just be what you want to do, which is,
yeah.
different. So, what would you advise?
Yeah, I mean, I think to each their own. You're gonna you're gonna do what you love, and that's the only thing. Then, just know that you're in that whole of your own design. You've made that bubble for you.
Yeah.
Just be prepared, outside of it. I what's worked for me is just that versatility,
Yeah.
and chameleon-esque kind of thing. um so it's worked for me, but it's not for everybody.
Mm,
So uh find what works for you, find your niche. If being adaptable is your niche, then that's great. If you have something and there's a place for it, then I say pursue it with all passion, because if that's what you love, then do it. So yeah, I think it's different for everybody.
that's true. You're right. No, I
Yeah.
think for the advice that I've always received is that just always cater to whatever your audience is, like whatever you're applying for, you know what I mean? And so, but again, that also requires you to be versatile, because not everything you
Yeah.
apply for is going to be the same thing all the time, so
Yeah.
um and
But also, like, what you want is allowed to change. You can shoot this way for a long time, and then be like, you know what? I really like this. I'm gonna try this for a while.
mm,
Like, you can do that, you don't have to stay fixed forever. So if you want to do something, try it and do it, but just know that, like, sometimes it's a harder road. After going one way, you're trying to swerve around the other way. It's gonna be
that's
harder,
that's
but if you want it, then it's worth it.
That's very true. Now,
Yeah.
now in the industry that you're in, do you enjoy, or would you prefer working on practical effects movies, or digital, like full blown, like 3D digital
Yeah.
visuals?
I've been lucky enough to work on both.
Okay.
There's nothing like practical because
Yeah.
it's in front of you and it's, there's performance to it. So that,
Sure.
ticks my theater
You
box
did
a
it.
little
I
bit,
was gonna say, yeah.
and so I definitely enjoy performance and suit actors. And I think it brings a very different characteristic and vibe to the set and to the
Sure.
actors and things like that. That said, I love digital effects as well. I'm a CG artist,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I enjoy that too. I like 3D printing, like these two worlds can live together,
yeah.
and I do love them both. And uh practical is really, really cool when it's in
Yeah,
front of
it is
you
cool.
and it's working. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, I think a lot of times, like I said, it's like there's times where a lot of students ask like, what's more important to have in your portfolio, 3D or 2D? And I've been really fortunate to make my career based on just 2D art.
Yeah,
I
yeah, dude.
tried do you know David Igo?
Yeah, yeah,
Well, David,
yeah. David's amazing.
yeah, he taught me 3 times ZBrush. Took all his classes, passed them all, got my certificate. And for the life of me, Jared, I cannot
I'll
stick it. I can't.
take my class, baby.
I should take
We'll
your
stick
class.
it. Yeah.
I
It's
could. I
just
mean, he's a great teacher. Seriously, really amazing teacher.
yeah,
But for some weird reason, I think ZBrush is just one of those programs that you gotta stick to it, or else you'll forget it because the interface is a little
yeah.
bit like
It's a weird program, and once you understand its roots, then it gets easier.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's its own thing for
No,
sure.
I definitely, like I said, when I was in it, I was loving it. I was creating
Yeah,
stuff, I was doing stuff, and then right when I finished the class, I went back to work, and because I was an art director at the time there at that company, I I was just directing, so I wasn't creating. I was just
yeah, yeah, yeah,
being a director. So for me, I just felt like I lost it, and then I lost interest in it, and then I just started painting more digital painting, and I just got way better at digital painting. And I said, I just might just live here. I just live
yeah.
in 2D. Um, and so that's the part that I think like a lot of students like they say, oh, you have to have 3D, or some schools just teach like you have to know 3D, you have to go out there with that. And
Yeah,
some students just don't dig it. They just don't really want to do it. And so I've always encouraged them to just do what you enjoy doing, because
yeah,
you know what I mean. It's like don't force yourself to swallow a pill you don't want to take. You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
not every artist has to know 3D, but it does help. I mean, obviously for you, it's helped tons because you can be versatile in both worlds.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I think everybody should be able to use some 3D to a degree because it can be very helpful. Um, it all depends on like what you're doing, what's the job call for. Even if you're using rudimentary SketchUp models or things like that, it's not too bad once you hang out in there for a while, you start understanding the programs and
Yeah.
things like that. But like for drawing as a skill set, drawing is the foundation of all
100%.
skill sets, right? It's the mother skill set. So everything comes from drawing, and then it radiates outward from that umbrella,
Mm,
right? Like I think, if you had two pillars, you have drawing and sculpting, and those two abilities radiate out. So if you understand those foundations, the digital equivalents of those foundations aren't much different,
mm,
right? That you have the tech side of things, which is just a learning curve,
mm.
because technology, there's always going to be like a hurdle to kind of learn how the program works to do what you want it to do. Um, but once you understand the fundamentals, and the art fundamentals are what you're going to be learning the rest of your life, right?
Yeah.
Because you're always going to be picking up art techniques, but the software you'll get over eventually,
Mm,
right? You'll crest that curve, and once you get over that, then you're in proficiency, and
mm.
then it's just doing, and you're not thinking about it,
It's true.
right?
You're
So it's
right.
just repetition,
That's right.
repetition. Yeah. But look, drawing is the hardest skill set because if you don't draw, everything else starts to suffer.
That's
So
true.
it's really funny that way.
It's funny you say that because I feel like fundamentals in art is like, I think for me that's what I push the most in any of
Yeah,
the classes I either teach or anything that I talk about. It's really about core fundamentals, like
yeah,
values, and doing all your, like, anatomy studies, proportions, all that stuff that just falls under the umbrella of fundamentals. I think is super key.
yeah,
um how how did you get proficient in your fundamentals? I know it's going to be a constant growing thing. It's always going to
yeah.
always keep growing in that. But how did you get to, like, say, you know what, fundamentals, I gotta nail that.
Yeah, I did go through a period where I was like, God, I really need to go back and focus on those things. So just every so often you got to refresh it,
Yeah,
and learn it a little bit more, study it a little bit deeper, go a little bit deeper, and then get out of it and just explore for a while, and then dive back in and go out and explore. So there when I was doing that, I and learning anatomy specifically, because anatomy is a very complex topic.
yeah.
I would like quiz myself every day. I would get an app on my phone and quiz myself on the muscles or the bones or things like that. So uh especially with learning anatomy, you have to like dive in for a while
That's
and
right.
really like, absorb that knowledge.
What part of the fundamentals did you find? I mean, maybe it is anatomy, but what did you find the hardest thing to really, like really take on?
I think lighting
Really?
is
Okay, lighting, right
is
on.
yeah, lighting is everything. And so that was something I think I struggled with for a long time. And it didn't click until I started working in practical effects,
Mm,
because I would see them light a model on a stage, and I was like, oh man, I get it. Like I got mood. I
mm,
started to understand, lighting on a deeper level.
yeah,
So lighting is still something that I'm very fascinated with, and um, struggle with. And you can always work on lighting and values. Those things are always like intertwined as far as like fundamentals, but also structure, like primitive shapes and
yes,
rendering those primitive shapes,
yes,
and all that viz dev,
yes,
viscom stuff.
yes.
Those are the fundamentals. It's just going back to that again and again.
That's it. Yeah, I think that's the important part. I think a lot of times people just want to get to the meat. You know what I mean? They want
Yeah,
to get right into
yeah,
the cool character. They want to dress it up,
cool
and
stuff.
and then it's like, but then their form is suffering, their proportion suffers, their facial anatomy suffers, their
Yeah.
muscles structure, everything just
things
suffers.
things look flat.
Yeah,
It doesn't have dimension. That's stuff I work on too.
yeah.
You're always trying to get better.
That's true. And right now, I think my biggest thing right now where I'm trying to get better at is my and I've been studying Zorn. Um,
Okay.
yeah, Zorn and Sargent has been my two guys right now. But I'm trying to learn how to get better at lost edges and
Yeah, 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 yeah,
get into
yeah.
lost edges, because I mean, I can, yeah, I could do a face real cool, I could do a character real cool, but then when it comes to the transitions of the forms, sometimes I'm like, man, I want it to feel more natural. You know what I mean? I want it to
Yeah.
feel more smoother and just a nice thing. I think the stuff for the concept art you did for Pennywise,
Oh yeah.
dude, that stuff was incredible to me. So I looked at some of the way that you, even though it's painterly, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the cool transition and like the way his head is, and it's just great transitions that you had on there. And I mean, I was like, man, this just, he gets it. You know what I mean? I'm like, this is the way to do it. And um, what's his name? Luke Starkey. You know
Oh
Luke?
yeah, 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 yeah.
So I saw his 3D that he did for Pennywise too, and I was like,
Yeah.
that was pretty cool.
Dude's rad, man.
Yeah, I
He's a
actually
great.
I
He's
got,
got great form.
yeah,
Yeah.
see my arm. That's,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, there you go. Sick.
yeah, that's a
Looks
Pennywise.
great.
Thanks, man. But yeah, I'm a big fan of that. So when I saw yours too, I was like, man, debating. I was like, man, these two are like freaking phenomenal. But I need something intense. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
saw the
With the teeth.
way but the way you painted that, the way that you did all those different like character concepts, I was like, man, this is really cool.
Yeah.
Um, when you study for a or project, or you get ready for a project, do you look at like your face for inspiration? Do you look at I mean, what do you look for inspiration? Where do you find it
Um,
when it comes to specifics, like let's say Pennywise, for example?
yeah, in Pennywise, I don't think I was looking at too much that was specific. I was actually I was looking at hobo clowns. I
Oh,
don't know
interesting.
if you, yeah, yeah, yeah. There was a series of hobo clowns that were very popular in modern art for a period there in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah,
And
that's
my dad had a painting of hobo clowns that sat in our dining room, and it was very disturbing to me.
right.
It's probably why I am this way. Um, but besides that, I really try not to look at too much reference, but just because I don't want the influence.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Um, and so I always try to think about character first,
Mm,
right? Character comes first, and the convey like what I'm trying to convey of the character, because it's
yeah.
you're trying to hook them in on a moment,
Yep. 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 Yep.
they want to see a frame from their movie.
So, but that would mean that you would have to have a visual library mentally, right?
I
Because
do have a I do have a visual library. I mean, I do have references and I do collect a lot of materials. Um, so most of that collection and looking and things like that, that's all done kind of in the in between,
yeah, that's right.
when I'm just kind of like filling my visual library. And then when it comes time to the practice, I just let it all go and just absorb, let my brain do what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I do think a lot about character overall, and that can mean different things depending on, who you're trying to convey, or, whatever it is. You're trying to inject some soul,
Hmm. Hmm.
you know?
Yeah, because I think your characters have a particular style to them. They're not like for example, like the Pete, the dragon, the Pete,
Yeah.
like it wasn't like you went straight for like your typical dragon. It just looked like completely different. It was not something that you would see as a dragon. It was completely different. So I like I said, even with the stuff with Megan, you had a specific, just the look to them was just so unique.
Yeah.
It was different. So that's why I was curious to see how or where you get your references from, because it was totally unique. It wasn't something that I've seen. So and even the Pennywise, your take on Pennywise, now that you mention it, it does have that old school kind of hobo-ish look, but it
Yeah.
does
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
a very
Yeah.
vintage look is what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah. Yeah.
vintage look. So I think that's what I think I get drawn to your art, because I feel like there's a lot of uniqueness. It's almost like original. It's like it feels
Oh,
original.
thank you, man.
So that I commend you for that, because I think, like
Thank
I said,
you.
I was curious to know where does
Where
Jay
that comes
go
from.
for, where do you go for that sort of stuff, So
Um, with Pete's Dragon, it's a little easier because you have the old design.
hmm,
And so so I'm looking at that and trying to like adapt it.
yeah,
And then when the director said furry, I was like, oh, okay, it's got hair, and I kind of understood it. But that's where you put yourself in the character, right? Like he's the last dragon, he's sad, he's alone, he's kind of like a melancholy
yeah,
character, and that's not something that like I was directed on, but that's what I felt. And if I can hopefully by transference put my feelings into that,
sure,
that'll come through. um so I think that's where it comes from, and this is actually where the theatrical side
that's cool.
does help, is
That's cool.
because there's a little bit of channeling of emotion and character. And because look, I don't get a lot of detail when I'm working on these things. It's usually, sometimes you get a script, sometimes it's you just get a couple of lines or just a description.
Hmm,
Sometimes they're working on the script as you're working on it.
interesting.
um so it's an evolving process. And um and so when I get very little information, I just make it up.
That's cool.
So and I hope that those things translate
Yeah.
over to it.
I think that's I think every artist's dream is to actually get the freedom to do something, unique, and their own personality, put into the characters. I think that's any character artist is pretty much.
I think we all do that kind of by by default, like because it's from you, it can't
Yeah,
help but be an expression of you.
that's right.
Sometimes artists are accused of putting their faces in
That's
their
right.
projects, because that's what we look at all the time.
That's right.
Um, so yeah, I mean, we all kind of do it,
Yeah.
uh, unconsciously or
Yeah,
consciously,
that's right. No, I think a lot of the characters I was doing before, I would draw a lot of character stuff, and then for some weird reason, they always had some type of my features in it.
Yeah,
And they're like,
yeah,
dude, this character looks like you. And I'm like, dude, he's a monster. Do I
I
look like
know.
a monster? It's like, no, it's just the way he looks. Certain expressions that you do on your characters look like you. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
well, and
yeah,
I
totally.
because I look in the mirror when I'm drawing characters, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna draw, whatever, my face or something, and I'll just use that as inspiration. But then all of a sudden, it's like it looks way too much like me, or like I might put like maybe my nose or some type of like
Yeah,
features of mine that I'm just like, oh,
yeah.
I get where the inspiration came from, so
So sometimes I cast with actors in mind or with people in mind as well. So I'm like, oh, this monster is this person.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so sometimes I'll cast an actor that I like.
Hmm.
And I'll say like, okay, this is played by blah blah blah, and it's directed by blah blah blah. Like
That's cool.
so that's one technique that I
That's
have is
cool.
like,
That's cool.
okay, this monster's Danny DeVito, this monster's whoever. That kind of frames it in my mind of like, okay, I get this character.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
So, one of the things I wanted to ask you too, because I don't want to forget, because I almost did right now, and I'm glad it came back to my head right now. Ready Player One. Can you tell me a little bit your experience in that? Because my kids love that movie, and
Oh,
I
cool.
that was one of my favorite movies. A lot of my friends were like, "Eh, it was cool." I think it was awesome. It was a great concept.
Yeah.
I think it was just a fun ride, and dude, it was awesome. So, can you tell me a little bit about the experience in?
Oh man, that was the best time. Because we were in studio and I had my team. I was supervising a team of artists, and man, every day was fun because like sometimes we just got blue sky, like just do whatever you want. Sometimes it was here's a directive.
Mm,
Excuse me.
sure.
Um, so like a lot of the times it was just working with artists and just coming up with weird stuff, the weirdest stuff that we could come up with. And we got to plumb the depths of our brains and come up with some things and it was just fun, man. It was just so much fun. The deadlines were fast and tight, because they had a lot of characters they wanted to do. So, we were pedal to the metal, but in the end we all got like something through, like we all got some stuff that we liked and it was then you see it on screen and we're like, oh, yeah, there he is, he made it, and we knew that we were getting notes from like Steven Spielberg, so it's like he saw this, or if we knew that it meant approved, that it had to go through a line of people, um, especially because they were using IPs from all these other
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There was a lot.
things, and so the whole thing was a very there was a lot of legal stuff in there, so we had to submit all of our references. We had to make sure that like if we were adapting something, it was approved. Nothing could look like anything else.
Mm.
So there was a line that we had to walk on it, but it was awesome. It was just a great time.
When you saw that movie for the first time, like what was your contribution that you were like, yes, like that came through? Like what was your favorite? Or
Well,
what
there's a
was it that gave you that wow moment?
Yeah, the big one is Mechagodzilla because that's like featured at the end, right? So obviously Mechagodzilla, and that's my first Mechagodzilla, and I was like, oh my God. And it's such a cool sequence. But there are a bunch of other little characters that made it in. There's one called the Murgatroyd, uh,
Mm,
which shows up, and it was just like I had a 1 day shot to do this guy, and he made it in. So there are some other little monsters in there here and there that we can that we were like, when we saw the trailer, we were like circling and looking out, and all of us were like, oh my God, that's that, so yeah.
So did you guys get to watch it together, and then you guys are all just like, oh look, that made it, or did you guys see it only when it hit the theaters?
Well, we saw it when it hit the theaters, but we did see, when the trailers came out, we were all crowding
Oh,
around.
nice.
Yeah, grabbing
Cool.
freeze frames and things like that.
That's really cool, man. What a great, that must be the greatest feeling though, to know that people are just paying to go see this and excited. I mean, like I told you this on our call before we got on, is that I saw Godzilla, King Kong Godzilla twice with my kids.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
such a fun. You know which one? Two Transformers.
yeah,
We saw
yeah.
Transformers, man. It was awesome, dude. Like I think, like I said, you have like the funnest job ever, dude. To be able to do these fun things. I'm sure your kids probably go nuts when you go take them to theaters. Just fun
He
things.
doesn't quite get it yet, but he kind of understands it. And he's not at that age yet, but he
He's
will
still
as
little,
well.
right? He's still a little dude, right?
Yeah. He's still a little dude.
Yeah, dude. So like I said, to me, like I said, I applaud you, man. All the fun stuff you worked on, man. I'm a big fan, and you know,
Dude.
yeah, I'm really excited for all the stuff you'll be working on, and looking forward to some more awesome movies. And before we get on, before actually we get off, I wanted to ask you, what advice would you give students that are trying to get into the industry?
Yeah. I guess the first thing is that creative work is never stable.
Mm,
Um, that it's there's always going to be a degree of instability, and you just have to have your wits about you and be smart about it. Um, build out some long-term goals, some short-term goals, some medium-term goals. Uh, you know, Continue working on fundamentals. Um, I would say the big thing is just like you're keeping in mind that like a big chunk of getting work is just marketing yourself,
mm,
and putting yourself out there. And that can be very difficult for artists as we're very insular.
mm,
Um, and putting yourself out there is scary and nerve-wracking, and it is for me too. Like whenever I post, I'm always nervous. I just when I'm sharing work, even though if it's like stuff that I don't like, I'm like, well, I just got to put it out there anyway because I'm scared. Like just keep putting yourself out there, keep networking and meeting people, working on those communication skills as well, and just be front facing. It's a weird time right now for creatives,
mm.
but don't let that stop you from creating as well, because if you're just driven, um, then you just have to keep doing it.
That's true.
Um, Jared Morantz, to call it back to him, he told me this was a lifestyle,
Mm.
and I didn't understand what he meant, but now I do. I get what he means. You know.
Yeah, that's great advice. I think it's
Uh,
important for students to know that, again, it's no matter what industry you're in, you got to make sure that you're prepared for the next move, and I
yeah,
think that's important because a lot of times students think that yeah, once I land a job, I'm gonna be there for a while, you know what I mean? And it's like, man, you can be gone the next couple weeks, you know what I mean? Sometimes it doesn't work out. But in recent times, I've been hearing a lot of students that I've been going through, and it's kind of heartbreaking
yeah,
actually to hear this.
yeah. Projects come and go, and
So a lot of students that I've run into recently that I went to a few shows, and a lot of them, and I mean a lot, Jared, like it's sad. It's like is they say stuff like um I said, what do you want to do with your career? What's your next, what do you want to be? And they're like, I'll take anything. I'm like, what do you mean you'll take anything? And they're like, yeah, whatever pays me, as long as I get a paycheck. And I was like, ooh, like, you know what I mean? Then go work at a supermarket, or you know what I mean? Because that's a paycheck. Like, why are you paying all this money for school? And
yeah.
but I'm glad that you're saying that, because it does prepare students to understand that, listen, this is not for everybody. And sometimes it looks glorious that people are doing all this art and you're doing all this cool stuff, but in reality, man, it's hard work, man. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of hustle, and you're a testament to that, man. And I can definitely
It,
know.
it It is true. It is a lot of hustle, and you don't stop, you know. You don't stop learning, you don't stop growing, you don't stop hustling, you don't stop putting yourself out there, and you just have to be prepared that that is also a part of the creative life.
That's right.
And so the highs are high and the lows are low, and everything in between is focusing on doing what you do.
It's true. It's very
So
true.
it is, but that is the craft, that is the calling of the creative, you know, and to an extent, you have to be a little bit delusional, you know, to believe that it all works, you know, and that you're, but I also believe that like we all individually have our place, and things that we can bring, and new stories to tell. So if you feel that that's like inside of you and you got stuff to say, yeah, you know, put it out there.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
But listen, Jared, man, it was awesome talking. I don't want to take too much of your time, but I do
Uh,
appreciate you, do man. Thank you so much
Dude.
for your insight. And I'm gonna see you at Monster Palooza.
Yeah, yeah, hell yeah.
Excited
Yeah,
to
I'll be
meet
there.
you again, brother.
Yeah, man. It'll be great.
Awesome, dude. Well, listen, man, we'll have a great night and I'll talk to you soon. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
Thank you, man.
All right.
All right.
Well, guys, we made it to the end of the video. Thank you so much for joining us today. I do appreciate your time. Jared, special salute to you, buddy. I thank you so much, and I appreciate your time, efforts, and support of the ASC. It means a lot to us. It really does. And guys, make sure you guys check out the links down below. Visit Jared's website. You guys gotta visit it because it has a lot of inspirational. Get lost like I did. I saw a lot of inspirational production art that he created to inspire some of the iconic characters within those movies. So check that out. Make sure you comment, like, subscribe, and make sure you hit that notification button for our upcoming videos. And again, guys, stay inspired, stay creative, and most importantly, guys, stay social. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.